In this video I will explain what happened in the second part of the Tomb Raider series. If you want to recap the first Tomb Raider game, check out my other video. The game starts with a bottle next to the Chinese Great Wall. At one point it's interrupted by a huge dragon, and it turns out it has a glowing dagger stabbed in his belly. And this bald guy is kind enough to pull it out. But it's not like they will be friends now, as the dragon just grills his ass like it was a rib on a Sunday barbecue. Then the dragon dies and vanishes. So, turns out pulling out the dagger must have somehow killed it. Few other guys open a tomb. Inside they find a barrel with the dragon's head. And it turns out the dagger is a key that opens it and releases some purple breeze that actually kills them. Back in the present, Lara Croft is dropped from the chopper right next to the Great Wall. She gets inside through the guardhouse and progresses, avoiding a lot of deadly traps and some animals. And finally, she meets a T-Rex. Well, actually, it's a sequel, so there's not one, but two of those. Finally, she reaches the same door we've already seen on the intro and gets ambushed by this bodybuilder, but easily gets him at gunpoint. This Hezbollah on steroids explain that the doors are waiting for the right one, and blah blah something about the dagger and those who believe, and then just poisons himself. But he mentioned the name Bartelli, so Lara uses the local Wi-Fi to Google this, and this truck leads her to Venice. There she is welcomed by a huge dude with a shotgun. Then she finds a motorboat and takes a ride through the sewers to a quite well-protected villa with dozens of metal masked guards trying to get rid of her. But she finds some keys and is quick enough to get through the gates before they close again. Using a shortcut, Lara manages to get to Bartoli's hideout. This place is highly protected by many of his bodyguards. Lara goes through the mansion that is one big puzzle, with a lot of keys, doors and traps. Then she goes through the grand library and finds a way to the opera house. Here she needs to find a relay box that operates the elevator. This reveals a pool which contains a circuit board, which rises the stage of the opera house when inserted into a panel in the control room. So Lara rises the stage with the switch activated by the circuit board. There she confronts this guy, but it's not Bartoli. I would rather consider him a boss of his security, gang, cult, or whatever you call it. After beating him, she jumps on a plane that is just about to leave. And this time it is Bartoli himself who is steering it. And Lara gets to overhear a conversation with one of his servants. When this guy Fabio suggests that, you know what boss, you might be wrong, Bartoli gets really mad and he accuses him that his belief is too fragile and just punches him in the stomach. Then he explains how he is destined for the dagger and how his father possessed the seraph, which is an old artifact, but he was not the chosen one, and Bartoli clearly believes that he is. Lara is so into this dialogue that she gets ambushed by a guy named Eidos and gets knocked unconscious. The plane lands on an offshore rig in the Adriatic Sea. She wakes up in a cell with no weapons. She's trying to find a way out, and it turns out that the switch to the door is hidden behind some boxes. Anyway, the alarm switch is on, so a lot of guards show up and Lara must jump into the water to avoid being shot. Then she reaches the plane and there she finds her guns. Well, I guess it's time to get out of this place. Lara finds a cart that she uses to redistribute water between the giant water tanks and uses a path in the middle of them to get into the diving area, where she encounters enemies with flame guns. But more importantly, she finds Brother Chan being interrogated and tortured by Bartoli's men. She saves him, and the monk explains to her that his father sank Bartoli's father's vessel into these waters, and now he is here to prevent his son from salvaging the seraph. He also says that they want the seraph to unlock the treasure that monks contain in their monastery. Marco Bartoli, who he considers a madman possessed by ancient beliefs, and I guess he's pretty right about that, wants to get the key and the treasure, believing he is worthy enough not to get killed by this purple thing we saw in the intro. This conversation is interrupted by Bartoli himself, who shoots the monk. Lara jumps into the water and grabs a small submarine that is going to search for the Maria Doria ship that contains the seraph. But due to the shark attack, the shuttle crashes, so I guess Lara won't have to pay for this underwater Uber. Inside, she starts looking for the Seraph, of course. Using the circuit breakers, she shuts down one of the 3 burners that are stopping her from reaching the hallway above. Lara manages to find a way to the upper decks, and through solving some puzzles in the ballroom area, she gains access to the engine room and a flooded corridor that leads her to the dark deck. And there's a huge moray living there, so Lara must be careful not to become an afternoon snack. The ship got stuck in the cave, so the deck is not underwater. And moving some boxes to find keys to open some doors actually leads Lara to finding the Seraph, and since Bartoli left his plane open with the keys inside, Lara just borrows it and goes straight to Tibet. The engine breaks over the mountains, so she needs to parachute herself before it crashes, with eagles, snowballs and tigers attacking her almost instantly. She climbs the mountains and turns out that Bartoli's boys are already there. Lara steals their jet ski and makes a few action jumps through the caves. Now she's just a few tugs away. Turns out there's already battle going on between Bartoli's men and the monks protecting the entrance. Lara gets inside through one of the windows on higher floor. Then she collects 5 prayer wheels that are necessary to use Seraph. Monks don't consider her a threat and do not attack her. Placing the Seraph opens the entrance to the vast catacombs that lie below the monastery, in which lies the Talion. To get her hands on the Tibetan masks, Lara needs to fight some leopards and yetis. But thanks to those masks, she will open the passage to the Ice Palace. Ice Palace is the first level that introduces springboards that help Lara to get into places high above. She flips the switch that melts the ice pool, and that way she can swim down and get her hands on this hammer. And actually this hammer is needed to unseal the doors of the Ice Palace. And inside, Lara meets this huge demon, the Guardian of Talion. Well, good thing at this point Lara has M16, because after eating a few dozen metal seeds, Guardian gets an indigestion that puts him into sleep. Outside she sneaks and steals a jeep, but the enemies are starting to pursue her through the snow. Lara shoots the other jeep and makes an action jump by escaping the truck. She reaches the Great Wall and she opens the door with the key. Inside, there is still a long way to go, with tigers, traps and lava pools to beat, but it's nothing that she hadn't already seen before. After a short chase with this eagle and a stone ball, she manages to reach the dragon seal and use it to open the gate. But she's not even close, because there's still a lot of swimming with fishes and some cave exploring with huge spiders appearing out of nowhere. And if you don't like spiders, this part will give you creeps. But Lara beats all the ancient surprises, finds the main chamber key, and turns out Bartoli is already there. But looks like he has a little finding the dagger party with some friends from gym, and after a round of admiration from his boys, he decides to just stab himself with a dagger. Okay, even Lara is shocked by this, but his men aren't, and they just take his body out of the room, so Lara decides to follow them to see what happens next. And somehow she lands in a place called Floating Islands. And it's not really a place from this planet, so say hello to some diabolic Xian warriors flying all over. But thankfully those bullets she brought from home still work good. Lara gets inside this weird temple and reaches a room surrounded with cages. There she needs to fight 4 ninjas handling knives like it was Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen episode. Also some Xian warriors decide to join the party, but beating them opens her a passage to the dragon's lair. She finds Bartoli's body lying there, and when she gets closer, he turns into a freaking dragon and starts to breathe with fire and everything. So that's exactly what the dagger does. It turns you into a dragon if you stab yourself with it. And if you remember the intro, the monk on the battlefield just pulled it out and it made the dragon disappear. So when Lara managed to stun the dragon for a while, that's exactly what she did. And you know what? It worked like a charm. But don't take the champagne out of the freezer yet, as the whole place starts to collapse and Lara still needs to find a way out. But again, it's nothing she actually did not manage in the first part of the game, so at this point she has a field experience in jumping out of the tomb just a second before it explodes. Back at home, Lara is playing in her bedroom with her new toy when Bertoli's boys arrive and break into the house. Well, I guess a little shotgun jogging before bedtime might make you sleep better, so Miss Croft plays with the boys but actually decides to clean those dead bodies in the morning and just heads straight into a shower.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
And that's how the game ends.